I'm not a fan. I know. Why wouldn't you like bagels? Everybody likes bagels. They're just tough and dense. Okay, like why? Thankfully, this isn't about me. It is about my mom. Her birthday is coming up and she is obsessed with bagels. Obsessed. Like literally craves them. I've heard of people craving like pizza or burgers or ramen, but bagels? Really? A bagel? Anyways, I digress. If a bagel is what you want, a bagel is what you get. Now I know what you're thinking. Why not just make a bagel? Just a bunch of recipes online, just make her a bagel. I did, okay? There was this tomato themed bagel I saw on Pinterest. It was so cute. I tried to recreate it, but let me just show you. This is expectation, what I thought I was gonna create. And this was the reality. This is why we're gonna be making a big painting instead, okay? Listen, hear me out. I found an artist surprisingly on YouTube Shorts. She creates these like 3D food paintings and they're so freaking cute. The 3D element usually being like dollops of cream or like spreading of butter or jam. So today I'm gonna try to recreate one of them, being the bagel one. I think it's her most popular one. Now, by no means am I a painter, but that shouldn't stop me from making cute things, okay? So let's just jump right into it. Let's go. Okay, so here is my little setup. I ended up picking these canvases up at a local dollar store for $6 each. I got 2 in case I screw up the first one. This was honestly the hardest thing to find. I went to a couple Walmarts, Dollarama's, and Dollar Trees. Nothing. I mean, I could have ordered some online, but they're expensive. So I thought I'd try in-store shopping instead, and I'm so happy I did because these canvases were a bargain. Everything else I have here is just stuff I've hoarded over the years, like the paint and the brushes. Literally every time someone I know is wanting to get rid of their crafting tools, they message me before taking it to the dumpster because they know I'll take it. It's a sickness, I know, but I'm not old enough for this to be a problem yet, so let me be. I knew one day I'd have a purpose for this stuff, and today is the day. Let's start with these canvases. I don't know why, but I always assumed circle canvases were smooth on the side. So seeing that they're actually all wrinkled like this hurts me, okay? Especially as a sewing person, all I want to do is iron it flat. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it, so let's move on. Gonna start with some white paint. This canvas is primed, so I don't even need to be doing this. It just doesn't feel right to not slap a shit ton of white paint on a canvas to start. So here we are. Gotta make sure to get the wrinkly sides as well, then let it dry. All right, so now it's time for the shading, like all the shadows of the plate. I don't have anything that's like big enough to be the center circle bit, so I'm going to measure in from the side of the canvas, I think about 2.5 inches all the way around. I mean, I could use a protractor, but I don't have one, so I've never been able to use one successfully. So we're just gonna do it this way. Once I make my markings, I connected them to form a perfectly wonky circle. Ta-da! To start, I'm gonna mix a light gray, then place it on the darkest side of the plate / where all the shadowing is on the image. Here is the original painting for reference. If you're trying this out and don't have a reference photo, the trick here is to imagine where your light source is coming from. So if light comes from this direction, your shadows will be here. If it comes from this direction, the shadows will be here. So following that, I'm gonna quickly add some white paint to blend it out. Go in with a dark gray to define that shadow. Then it just becomes a long and repetitive process of adding the highlights, then more shadowing, blending it out, then highlight, shadowing, blending it, until you get something like this. Ba-bam! My mom says it looks like a light fixture, like the ones from IKEA. But I say it looks like a plate, okay? I think I was spot on. Spot on with the shadowing. Anyways, it's time to add our floral details. Okay, but like, why is this so difficult? I want to really like nail the proportions, but I like don't know where to start because the swirls like come from every which direction. You know what I mean? Okay, so I did the bottom kind of, just marking out where the stems are. I already feel like it's wrong. And then I'm gonna mark the top and then the sides and then I'll fill it in the middle. Or else, because I feel like if I just continue from one side up, it'll be all like wonky, right? So if I mark the bottom, top, if I mark like all the corners and then work in. Does that make sense? I hope it does because that's what I'm gonna do. So I spent the next half hour rage drawing and rambling, which I wouldn't normally show you, but at some point when speeding up the footage, I start kind of sounding like I'm in an episode of Looney Tunes. Anyways, for the bagel shape, I'm going to use this yogurt lid / paint palette. Then for the knife, I'm gonna use a knife. No need to guesstimate the shape when you can just trace the real thing. As you can very clearly tell, here I am using some hella expired paint. I'm just happy it's blue and not brown, or else I'd have to censor this for looking too much like a turd. Gonna mix a light blue, then a dark blue, then just start adding color. Of course, going from light to dark. I'm essentially just tracing all the pencil markings, aside from the bagel and knife outline, till I get something like this. Once you're good with that, it's time to move on to the bagels. I'm not sure how to get the exact bagel color here, so I'm gonna use the closest thing I have to a bagel, which is this muted yellow. Then just mix it with some white, some browns, some orange, just so I have some variety. The yellow seems like a good halfway mark, so I'm just gonna use it as my base color and cover the first bagel in it. Because the other half is the inside of the bagel, I'm gonna coat it with the light beige as my base. Then let the shadowing begin. Much like the shadowing for the plate, I'm going to add some darker tones, then lighter tones, darker tones, and lighter tones, till I get something that kind of resembles a bagel. The coloring was starting to get muddied, so I let it dry and moved on to the knife. Again, like the plate shadowing, I'm going to mix a light gray and a dark gray, then just apply that base coat. To make the objects on the plate pop a bit more, we have to give them a little drop shadow. I did this by watering down the paint so it would glide on really lightly like watercolor paint. If my paint stroke was too heavy, I would simply add some more water to dilute the mark, then dab it off with some paper towel. Let that dry, then voila. It might not seem like much, but it definitely gives the painting a lot more depth. I then continued and spent the rest of the day adding shadows, highlights, shadows, and some more highlights to the bagel and knife in an attempt to make them as realistic as possible.
Pantofa! You scare me, buddy!
And of course, what is a crafting sesh without a protective bodyguard making sure no one but he is allowed to disturb my piece? It's burnt. It's a burnt bagel, okay? Just accept it. I really tried my hardest with this one. I just couldn't get the colors right. I just kept like adding the like brown and it kept getting darker and darker and darker. And then I tried to go back in with the yellow and white tones to lighten it up so it looked like this. It just wasn't working. It just kept getting all muddied. So this is what we're going with. It is kind of completely on brand though, because I do have a knack for burning things like in real life. I'm not an arsonist. I just have a knack for burning food in real life. Wow. Anyways, time to add the sesame seeds. Here, I just mixed the yellow with the white till I got a really, really light beige. Then just used different brush sizes and stamped it all over. I did not think that I could make this look any worse than it did before. But we're just going to pretend that these are pumpkin seeds and not sesame seeds, okay? It is a burnt bagel with pumpkin seeds, okay? Okay. Anyways, it is finally time for the star of the show, the cream cheese. Now, I'm not really sure what to use because I don't have like a thickening paint, like I don't know what it's called, but I do have spackle. I don't know why, but this was the first thing that popped into my mind when I was trying to think of alternatives to thick paint. I'm guessing it's because it has the perfect cream cheese texture. I also just had this tub lying around from a failed DIY project, so I am thrilled to finally be putting this goop to use. I do want it to be whiter though, so I'm gonna mix it with some really old gesso I have lying around. Okay, so for the actual like bagel portion of it, I'm gonna use a knife to spread it on just so we can get like the ridges from this butter knife. Plus it'll be the same size, so it's literally, you can't really go wrong with the shape of it, right? In terms of the knife though, I'm gonna use the spatula to put it on. Just cause, you know, when you're like picking up it out of a tub of cream cheese, it's more smooth, it's not as rough, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Wait, is this poisonous? So it says to use this in a well-ventilated area, so I'm just gonna open the window. I'm literally shaking. Okay, you ready? Because we only have one shot. We have one shot at this. Okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. That might be too much. Oh my gosh. Maybe we should just leave it at that. Ooh, but I like the little ridges that it has. Oh my gosh. Unfortunately, I think the paste was still a bit too wet because as it sat there, it would just start to deflate and sink. So my little knife markings kept disappearing. The more I worked on it, the more it spread, which was starting to cover the bagel entirely. So I just had to stop before I made it worse. I set it aside to dry and just hope for the best. Look at that. This turned out pretty darn well. It honestly turned out better than I thought it would. Definitely not the exact same as the original. When is it ever? I'm still obsessed with it though. I don't think the plaster was the best idea because it did crack in a couple spots. Maybe if I wet it every hour during the drying process, it wouldn't have cracked up like it did, but oh well, it's too late. I tried, I gave it a shot. I still love it. When you look at it from a distance, you really don't notice the cracks anyways, so it doesn't matter. Because of that though, I must give this a rating of 9 out of 10. I love every other aspect of this, and my mom has been staring at it every time she sits in the dining room, so it's definitely a win. Well, that's all I have for you this week. Thank you for joining me on my painting sesh. Question for the painters. Does it actually take this long to make a painting? Because this took me 4 days. I've been recording for 4 days, okay? I kind of finally understand why paintings cost so much, just from time spent alone. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'll see you again in 2 weeks. I will be turning that dress shirt over there into a bungee shirt. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.